the judgment and the exile. The chamber stretched endlessly in all directions. Crystalline pillars rose like frozen lightning, each one pulsing with the life force of a civilization older than human memory. The stellar assembly had convened, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with the weight of 1,000 alien minds focused on a single purpose. They had come to pass judgment on humanity. Ambassador Marcus Rivera stood alone in the center of the vast space. He was a tall man with weathered features and eyes that had seen too much. Behind him, holographic projections displayed the evidence. Images of Earth's nuclear strikes during the resource wars. Footage of the colonial conflicts on Kepler Station. Records of the terrible incident at Proxima Settlement where human factions had turned their weapons on each other, killing thousands. The adjudicator floated above them all. Its form was impossible to describe, shifting between states of matter and energy. It had witnessed the birth and death of countless species. Its voice, when it came, resonated in every language at once. Humanity stands accused, the adjudicator declared. In the span of 3 centuries since first contact, you have proven yourselves unworthy of the gift of space travel. You bring violence wherever you go. You cannot control your own destructive impulses. You endanger not only yourselves but all species who share the galaxy with you. Marcus clenched his fists. He had prepared for this moment for months. He had rehearsed his speech 1,000 times. But standing here, facing the judgment of beings who had mastered the stars while humanity was still learning to make fire, all his prepared words seemed hollow. Honorable adjudicator, he began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. We do not deny our past. We do not deny our mistakes. But I ask you to consider our progress. In 300 years we have learned. You have learned nothing, a voice interrupted. It belonged to Ambassador Thelkos of the VRNN Collective, a species of energy beings who had never known war. We gave you technology. We gave you knowledge. We offered you partnership. And what did you do? You took our gifts and turned them into weapons. You took our peace and brought chaos. Around the chamber, representatives of 200 alien civilizations nodded in agreement. The Zhkari, crystalline beings who communicated through light. The Morith, ancient minds housed in mechanical bodies. The Silnari, who existed partially in dimensions humans could not perceive. All of them had voted. All of them had decided. Marcus looked at each of them in turn. He saw no mercy in their alien features. He saw only certainty. The certainty that humanity was a cancer that needed to be cut out before it spread. The decision is made, the adjudicator announced. Humanity is hereby expelled from the stellar community. Your colonies will be evacuated. Your starships will be decommissioned. Your people will be relocated to Sector Omega-7, a region beyond the fringe where no valuable resources exist and no civilized species dwells. There you will remain, isolated from the rest of the galaxy, until such time as you prove yourselves worthy of rejoining civilized society. How long? Marcus asked quietly. The adjudicator's form flickered. That depends entirely on you. It may be 1,000 years. It may be 10,000. Or it may be never. The barrier we construct around your prison will be impenetrable. You will have no contact with the outside galaxy. Your descendants will grow up never knowing the stars belong to anyone but themselves. Perhaps, in isolation you will finally learn peace. Perhaps you will destroy yourselves. Either way, the galaxy will be safer without you. Marcus felt the weight of 8 billion souls pressing down on him. 8 billion humans scattered across 50 colony worlds, all about to lose everything they had built. This is a death sentence, he said. No, the adjudicator replied. This is mercy. We could have eliminated your species entirely. Many advocated for that solution. Instead we give you a chance to change, a chance to grow. What you do with that chance is up to you. The trial was over. The sentence had been passed. There would be no appeal. The evacuation took 6 months. Alien warships appeared in orbit around every human colony. They were not aggressive, but their message was clear. Leave now or be removed by force. Dr. Nadia Volkov watched from the observation deck of the transport ship Exodus as the colony world of New Petersburg shrank behind them. She had spent 15 years on that world, building a research center, growing gardens and soil that had never known life before humans touched it. Now it was all gone, handed over to whatever species the assembly deemed worthy. Around her, thousands of refugees filled the massive ship. Families clutched their few permitted belongings. Scientists mourned lost research. Children cried for homes they would never see again. The air was thick with despair. Nadia was a woman in her 50s with sharp features and sharper intellect. She had been director of the Colonial Science Initiative, responsible for research across 20 worlds. Now she was just another exile, stripped of title and purpose. But unlike many around her, Nadia was not broken. She was angry. She made her way through the crowded corridors to the command deck. Captain Sarah Boseman, a veteran of the Colonial Defense Force, stood studying star charts. "How many ships in the convoy?" Nadia asked. Sarah glanced up. 217 transports. "We're carrying approximately 4 million people. There are 50 other convoys just like ours scattered across the colonies. Total evacuation numbers are projected at 200 million humans. And the rest?" Sarah's face darkened. Earth was the last evacuation. They're loading the final ships now. Estimated total human population across all colonies before the exile was 800 million. Do the math. Nadia felt sick. 600 million people left behind because there was not enough ship space, not enough time, not enough resources. The assembly had given humanity 6 months to evacuate 50 colony worlds. It was impossible. They had known it was impossible. Perhaps that had been the point. "Where are they taking us?" Nadia asked. Sarah pulled up a star chart. A region of space glowed red on the display. Sector Omega 7. The locals call it the wasteland. No habitable worlds. No resources worth mining. No trade routes. It's where things go to be forgotten. What's there? Nothing good. 13 dead planets. A dozen asteroid fields. Some debris from an ancient war fought by species that don't exist anymore. Oh, and a black hole at the center of the sector, just to make navigation extra difficult. Nadia studied the chart. Her scientific mind was already working, analyzing, calculating. 13 planets. Even dead planets have minerals. Asteroid fields have raw materials. And if there was an ancient war, there might be ancient technology? Sarah finished. Maybe. Or maybe just ancient corpses. Either way, it doesn't matter. The assembly is building a barrier around the entire sector. Some kind of energy field that prevents jump drive travel. Once we're inside, we're trapped. No way out. No way to call for help. We'll be completely cut off from the rest of the galaxy. How long until we arrive? 3 months. Nadia nodded slowly. 3 months to prepare. 3 months to plan. 3 months to transform 800 million refugees into a civilization that could survive in hell. She turned to leave, then paused. "Captain, I'm going to need access to every scientist, engineer, and specialist on this convoy. I'm going to need manufacturing equipment, raw materials, and a lot of people willing to work very hard." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "What are you planning, Doctor?" Nadia smiled, but there was no humor in it. "The assembly thinks we're being sent to die. They think isolation will break us. They're wrong. We're going to build something they never expected. We're going to survive. And one day we're going to make them regret throwing us away." The convoy arrived at Sector Omega 7 on a cold morning that existed only on ship time. There was no sun here to mark the days. The nearest star was a dying red giant that cast everything in blood-colored light. Marcus Rivera stood beside Nadia and Sarah as the lead ship, Exodus, entered the sector. Behind them, 216 other ships followed, carrying the desperate hope of humanity. "Sensors show the barrier activating," Sarah reported. "It's forming behind us as we enter. Once the last ship crosses the threshold, we'll be sealed in." On the view screen they could see it. A shimmer in space like heat waves rising from hot pavement. It spread across the entrance to the sector like a curtain closing on a stage. And then, with a flash of light that made the whole convoy shudder, the barrier completed itself. They were trapped. "All ships are through," Sarah announced. "No casualties. We're inside." Nadia pulled up the sensor data. The 13 planets were spread across the sector in a rough arc. Most were barren rocks, stripped of atmosphere by solar winds and time. 2 were gas giants with poisonous atmospheres. 1 was covered in ice so thick that it would take years to drill through to whatever lay beneath. But one planet caught her attention. "There," she said, pointing at the display. 4th planet from the dying star. It has a thin atmosphere. Mostly nitrogen and carbon dioxide, but that can be worked with. Surface temperature averages -20 Celsius. Cold, but survivable with proper equipment. And look at this, there are ruins on the surface. Marcus leaned closer. Ruins from what? Unknown. But they're extensive, covering an area roughly the size of Europe back on Earth. Whatever civilization built them, they were advanced. Maybe advanced enough to leave something useful behind. Sarah was already plotting a course. "That's our target then. All ships will make for the 4th planet. What are we calling it?" Nadia thought for a moment. They could give it a scientific designation, a number or letter combination. But this was going to be their home, perhaps forever. It deserved a real name. Ash, she said finally. We'll call it Ash. Because that's what we are now. The burned remains of what humanity used to be. But from ash, new life can grow. From ash, we'll build something new. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. You really think we can survive here, Nadia? She looked at him, then at Sarah, then at the view screen showing the barren world that was now their only home. She thought about the 800 million humans scattered across 50 transport convoys, all heading toward this forgotten corner of space. She thought about the children who would grow up never knowing Earth, never knowing the colonies, never knowing anything but this exile. And she thought about the adjudicator's words. Perhaps you will destroy yourselves. Either way, the galaxy will be safer without you. We won't just survive, Nadia said quietly. We'll thrive. And one day, when we're ready, we'll show the galaxy exactly what humanity is capable of. Not the broken, violent species they judged us to be, but something stronger, something better. Something forged in the fire of exile and hardened by our refusal to give up. The ships began their descent toward Ash. As they entered the thin atmosphere, the hulls heated up, glowing red against the dark sky. To anyone watching from the surface, it would have looked like a meteor shower. Like the universe itself was raining fire down upon the abandoned world. But it was not destruction falling from the sky. It was hope. It was humanity. And it was only the beginning. Rebirth from the ruins. The first settlement on Ash was built in the shadow of ancient ruins. Massive structures of black stone rose from the frozen ground like broken teeth, each one covered in symbols that no human could read. They had been standing for millennia, weathering storms that stripped metal from bone and time that turned mountains to dust. Commander David Zhang stood at the entrance to what would become humanity's first permanent structure on this world. It was not elegant. It was a collection of prefabricated modules stripped from the transport ships, welded together with desperation and sealed with hope. But it was shelter. And on a world where the temperature dropped to -40 at night, shelter meant survival. David was a compact man with iron-gray hair and hands scarred from a lifetime of building things. He had been an engineer on Mars before the exile, constructing habitats that could withstand the Red Planet's brutal environment. Now he faced an even greater challenge. Status report, he called out to his team. Lieutenant Chin, a young woman with frost forming on her environmental suit, consulted her data pad. We have 12 habitat modules operational. Life support is stable. Power generation from the portable fusion reactors is at 70% capacity. Food stores will last approximately 8 months if we ration carefully. And after 8 months? Chin hesitated. We starve, sir. Unless Dr. Martinez works a miracle. David nodded grimly. Elena Martinez was their best hope for long-term survival. She was a geneticist and agricultural specialist who had spent 20 years developing crops that could grow in hostile environments. If anyone could coax food from the frozen soil of Ash, it was her. He found Elena in what they were calling the greenhouse, though it was really just another prefab module with grow lights strung from the ceiling. She was kneeling in the dirt, her hands buried in soil that had been shipped across light years at tremendous cost. Around her, tiny green shoots pushed their way toward the artificial sun. Tell me something good, Elena, David said. She looked up and he saw exhaustion in her face. She had not slept in 3 days. None of them had slept much since landing. The earth crops are dying, she said bluntly. The soil composition is all wrong. The temperature fluctuations are too extreme. The atmospheric pressure is too low. Even with environmental controls, I'm losing 90% of everything I plant. David felt his stomach sink. And the other 10%? Will buy us maybe 2 extra months. Not enough. Elena stood, brushing dirt from her knees. But I have an idea. It's risky and it might not work, but it's our only shot. Tell me. She led him to a sealed containment unit at the back of the greenhouse. Inside, bathed in ultraviolet light, was something that looked like a cross between a fungus and a plant. It was gray-green, twisted, and somehow wrong to look at. I found this growing in the ruins, Elena explained. It's native to Ash. Or at least, it was native to whatever civilization lived here before. It's still alive after thousands of years, growing in cracks in the stone, feeding on minerals and trace moisture in the air. Can we eat it? God, no. It's toxic to humans. At least in its current form. She smiled, and for the first time David saw hope in her expression. But I can work with it. I can splice its genes with earth crops. Give them the ability to survive in this environment. Create hybrid plants that can grow where nothing else can. How long? 6 months. Maybe less if I skip some safety protocols. David thought about the 800 million humans scattered across Ash in temporary shelters, eating through their supplies, counting down the days until starvation. Skip them, he said. We don't have time for safety. We have time for survival. Elena nodded. I'll need more samples. And that means going deeper into the ruins. I'll arrange an expedition. Professor Isaac Osei had been an archaeologist before the exile. He had spent his career studying dead civilizations, piecing together their histories from fragments of pottery and scraps of text. Now he stood before the greatest archaeological discovery in human history, and all he could think about was how to loot it for survival. The expedition into the ruins consisted of 12 people. David Zhang led them, along with Elena Martinez, a security team, and Professor Osei himself. They carried cutting torches, scanning equipment, and weapons. The ruins had been abandoned for thousands of years, but the team was taking no chances. The entrance was a massive archway, 30 meters tall, carved with intricate patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. Beyond it, darkness waited. Scanners show the structure extends at least 2 kilometers underground, Lieutenant Chin reported. Multiple levels. Some kind of power source still active in the lower sections. Still active. After thousands of years. David exchanged a glance with Professor Osei. Whatever species had built this place, they had been far beyond humanity's current level. They descended into the darkness, their lights casting strange shadows on walls covered in alien script. The air was cold and dry, preserved by the vacuum-like conditions outside. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. On the second level, Elena found what she was looking for. An entire chamber dedicated to what appeared to be biological research. Containment units lined the walls, most of them empty or shattered, but a few still intact. Inside those units, alien plants and organisms remained preserved, frozen in time. This is incredible, Elena breathed, scanning the samples. These are specimens from dozens of different worlds. This was a research facility. They were studying life from across the galaxy. Can you use them? David asked. Absolutely. With these samples, I can create crops that will not only survive on Ash but thrive. We won't just avoid starvation. We'll have abundance. While Elena collected her samples, Professor Osei was drawn deeper into the ruins. Something was calling to him, a feeling he could not explain. He followed corridors that seemed to pulse with faint energy, descended stairs that led down and down into the heart of the structure. And then he found it. The chamber was enormous, larger than any cathedral on Earth. At its center stood a device, a sphere of metal and crystal suspended in midair, glowing with soft blue light. Around it, holographic displays showed star charts, mathematical formulas, and text in languages both alien and strangely familiar. Commander, Osei said into his comm unit, his voice shaking. You need to see this. When David and the others arrived, they found Osei standing before the device, tears streaming down his face. What is it? David asked. It's a library, Osei whispered. A repository of knowledge from the species that lived here. But more than that. Look at the star charts. Look at the dates. He pointed to a holographic display showing the galaxy. This facility was built 50,000 years ago. And it was part of a network. There are others like it, scattered across the galaxy, all connected, all sharing information. Why would they leave it here? Elena asked. Osei shook his head. I don't think they left by choice. Look at this. He manipulated the holographic interface and images appeared. Images of war. Images of species destroying each other. Images of worlds burning. They destroyed themselves, David said quietly. Yes. But before they died, they built these libraries. They preserved their knowledge, their history, their mistakes. They left them as warnings for whoever came after. Osei turned to face the others. Don't you see? This is why the assembly sent us here. Not as punishment. As a test. They wanted to see if we would find this. If we would learn from it. Or maybe they just wanted us gone and we got lucky, Lieutenant Chin said. Either way, David thought we have something now. Something the assembly never expected us to find. Knowledge. Technology. A chance. Can you access the database? He asked Osei. I've been trying. The interface is incredibly complex. It will take months, maybe years to fully decode. But I've already found something useful. He pulled up a new display and David's breath caught in his throat. It was a blueprint. A design for a ship. Not like the lumbering transports that had brought them here, but something sleek and elegant. Something fast. They had faster-than-light travel, Osei explained. Not the jump drives we use, but something different. Something better. If I'm reading this correctly, their ships could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of months. Could we build one? Elena asked. Not yet. We don't have the materials or the infrastructure. But one day, Jose smiled. One day we might build 1,000 of them. 3 years passed on Ash. 3 years of backbreaking work, of failures and small victories, of people learning to live in a world that wanted them dead. The hybrid crops grew. Elena Martinez's genetic experiments had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Fields of strange gray-green plants now stretched across the valleys near the first settlement, producing food that tasted odd but kept people alive. Then better food. Then food that actually tasted good. The population grew as well. Babies were born in the Ash settlements, the first humans who would never know any world but this one. They were given names like Hope and Phoenix and Ember. Names that spoke of fire and rebirth. Commander David Zhang oversaw the construction of New Haven, the first real city on Ash. It was built using both human engineering and technology scavenged from the ruins. Buildings that could withstand the brutal temperature swings. Factories that could process the minerals from the asteroid fields. Schools where children learned about Earth and the colonies, but also about their new home. Professor Isaac Osei made progress decoding the ancient library. Each breakthrough led to 10 new questions, but slowly, steadily humanity was learning. They learned about the species that had come before, the Vorkai, master builders who had spread across the galaxy before tearing themselves apart in civil war. They learned about the mistakes the Vorkai had made, the warnings they had left behind. And they learned about the technology. Slowly, carefully, human engineers began to understand the principles behind Vorkai faster-than-light drives, their power generation, their construction techniques. Nadia Volkov, now director of the Ash Scientific Council, coordinated it all. She worked 18-hour days, pushing herself and everyone around her to the limit. Because she knew something the others did not yet understand. The barrier was not permanent. She had been studying it obsessively since their arrival, analyzing every scan, every reading, every piece of data. And she had found a pattern. The barrier pulsed. It fluctuated. And in those fluctuations were tiny moments of weakness, windows that could theoretically be exploited. Not today. Not this year. Maybe not for decades. But one day, with the right technology and the right timing, the barrier could be breached. One evening, Marcus Rivera found her on the observation platform overlooking New Haven. The city glowed in the darkness, lights reflecting off the black stone of the ancient ruins that surrounded it. It looked almost beautiful. You should rest, Marcus said. You're working yourself to death. I'll rest when we're free, Nadia replied. We might never be free. The assembly made that clear. The assembly underestimated us. She turned to face him. They thought exile would break us. They thought we would tear ourselves apart or fade into obscurity. But look at what we've built, Marcus. In 3 years, we've created a civilization from nothing. We've mastered alien technology. We've learned to thrive in a place designed to kill us. And what do you want to do with all this? I want to go home. Not to Earth. Earth is lost to us. But I want to reclaim our place among the stars. I want to show the assembly that they were wrong about us. That we can be better than they believed. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. And if they won't listen? If they still see us as dangerous? Nadia's expression hardened. Then we remind them why they were afraid of us in the first place. Humanity has always been survivors, Marcus. We survive the impossible. We adapt to any environment. We overcome any obstacle. The assembly cast us out and forgot about us. That's the greatest mistake they ever made. Because now we're free to become something they never imagined. What are you planning, Nadia? She smiled, and it was the same smile she had worn on the transport ship 3 years ago. Tired but determined. Angry but hopeful. I'm planning for the day we break through that barrier. I'm planning for the day we return to the galaxy, not as the broken species that was exiled, but as something new. Something stronger. The assembly wanted us to learn humility. Instead, we learned self-reliance. They wanted us to learn peace. Instead, we learned unity. They thought isolation would weaken us. Instead, it forged us into something they should fear. How long? Marcus asked. 20 years. Maybe 30. But we'll do it. We'll find a way through the barrier. We'll build ships that can cross the galaxy. And then we'll send a message that every species will hear. Humanity is not forgotten. Humanity is not broken. Humanity endures. On the 20th anniversary of the exile, the entire population of Ash gathered in the central square of New Haven. 200 million humans standing shoulder to shoulder, looking up at the stars they could no longer reach. Nadia Volkov stood on a platform before them. She was older now, her hair completely white, her face lined with the weight of 2 decades of work. But her eyes were still sharp, still burning with determination. 20 years ago, she began, her voice amplified so everyone could hear, we were judged. We were found wanting. We were cast out and forgotten. The Stellar Assembly looked at humanity and saw only violence. Only chaos. Only danger. They sent us here to die or to change. They gave us a choice though they did not realize it. We could become what they wanted us to be, meek, humble, broken. Or we could become what we chose to be. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. We chose to be survivors. We chose to be builders. We chose to be human. And in 20 years, we have built something magnificent. We have built cities from ruins. We have created life from barren soil. We have decoded the secrets of a civilization that fell 50,000 years ago. We have done what the assembly said was impossible. We have thrived. A cheer rose from the crowd, but Nadia raised her hand for silence. But our work is not finished. The barrier still stands. We are still prisoners. The galaxy still believes we are gone, forgotten, irrelevant. They are wrong. And soon we will prove it. Behind her, a holographic display appeared, showing the design for a ship. Not the ancient Vorkai design, but something new. Something human. Something that combined the best of both civilizations. This is the Prometheus, Nadia announced. The first ship of our new fleet. It is faster than anything the assembly has ever built. It is powered by technology we have spent 20 years learning to understand. And it is designed with one purpose, to breach the barrier and carry our message to the stars. In 10 years the Prometheus will be complete. And when it launches, it will carry a crew of our best and brightest. They will break through the barrier. They will make contact with the Stellar Assembly. And they will deliver our message. Not a plea for forgiveness. Not a request to return. But a declaration. Humanity has returned. And this time we will not be cast aside. The crowd erupted. People cheered and cried and embraced each other. Children who had been born in exile looked up with wonder, imagining a galaxy they had never seen. Marcus Rivera stood beside Nadia on the platform. Do you really think we can do it? Break through the barrier? Yes, Nadia said simply. Because we have to. Because the alternative is accepting our cage. And humanity has never been good at accepting cages. And when we do break through, what then? Nadia looked up at the stars, at the barrier that sealed them away from the rest of the galaxy. Then we show them what we've become. Not the species they judged. Not the species they feared. But the species that survived their judgment and emerged stronger. We show them that casting us out was not their salvation. It was their wake-up call. Because humanity is coming back. And this time we're coming back on our own terms. The celebration lasted through the night. Fires burned in the streets of New Haven, not fires of destruction but fires of hope. Music played. Stories were told. And across the planet Ash, in every settlement and outpost, humans looked up at the stars and made the same promise. We will return. We will remember. We will rise. The Stellar Assembly had cast them out and forgotten them. They had sealed humanity away and moved on, believing the problem was solved. They had no idea what was coming. In the ruins beneath New Haven, Professor Isaac Osei worked late into the night, decoding the final sections of the Vorkai library. And there, in the ancient warnings left by a dying civilization, he found something that made his blood run cold. A prophecy. Or perhaps just a pattern that repeated throughout galactic history. Species rose and fell. Civilizations grew and collapsed. But always there were survivors. Those cast out. Those forgotten. Those who rebuilt in the dark places. And when they returned they changed everything. Osei smiled as he read the ancient text. The Vorkai had seen it. They had understood it. And they had left their knowledge here in the wasteland in the forgotten place, knowing that one day someone would find it. Someone who needed it. Humanity had been cast out and forgotten. But from the ashes of the old world, a new world had risen. Stronger. Harder. United. And soon, very soon, the galaxy would remember what it meant to underestimate humanity. The exile was ending. The return was beginning. And nothing would ever be the same.